Okay, so today we're going to be installing our OSP Viper turbo kit, 2014 Yamaha Viper. We got most of the kit laid out here, and we're just going to start by kind of going over the turbo, putting it together, getting it all set up, and then we're going to hang the turbo off of the sled. We pretty much got our sled torn down to the muffler off and the air box off. And we pretty much had, when you take the air box off, it takes the radiator mount and all that stuff off. We took our gas tank off also just to make it a little easier to see everything going on. And go ahead and walk you through the steps to put our kit on. First thing we're going to do is we just kind of go through the kit. We'll start with the turbo. We want to just loosen both housings, so that way we can clock the center section. If you're not familiar with the turbo, the bottom part where the big flange is the drain flange. So this is where the oil is going to come out of once the oil is done going through the turbo. So that's what this flange is for. This is going to bolt right up to there. And then we also give you the fitting that goes into there. So we're going to have to put Teflon tape on this. And then also, once we get it in there, we got to make sure that it's not protruding through. So I'm going to go ahead and tape this up and tighten it up. So the drain flange tightened up, you can see it protrudes a little through the end. So we're just going to take and hit it on the belt sander. You could use a 90 sander or anything. Just get it all a flat surface. So with the fitting sanded down, now we're going to go ahead and install it on the turbo. It's going to go just like that. And the gasket that is supplied is going to go right in between. And then we're going to go ahead and use two of the M8 by 125 bolts with lock washers for the flange. Alright, so now with our drain flange installed and tightened down, we notice that there's only two of the flanges that hold the compressor housing on. So we're going to go ahead, that's what this part is. Apply that to hit, so that's going to go right there under those two bolts. With the third bracket installed, just loosely installed, not tightened up yet, but we want to be able to clock the housing still. Now we can flip the turbo over, and it's going to be in the sled in something about like this configuration. So we want to have this top oil feed about square with this top flange here, and we're going to go ahead and get the water fitting hooked up onto it, which is going to be this 90 degree. And the straight, the 90 degree is going to go in the back, and the straight is going to go in the front. Okay, with the water fittings installed, something like this. We don't want to tighten much yet, we still want to have everything loose so we can all just kind of get it in there and get it in the sled, get it positioned where we like, and then we'll start tightening things up. My last thing we got to install is our top turbo feed, which is this banjo bolt with an AM number 4 fitting on it. So that's going to go on the top. All the banjo bolts get installed with a washer on the back side and a washer on the front side. So that way it seals on both surfaces. Alright, so now with our turbo all set up like that, we're going to go ahead and install our mid pipe and our exhaust pipe turbo mount set up. So basically how this all works is this part here is going to be the mount to mount it to the sled. This is the exhaust flange that bolts up to the turbo, and this is the mid pipe that connects the exhaust pipe to the turbo. Okay, so we're going to start by putting this flange under here. We're going to use our gaskets and pour the 1 inch 5/16 bolt and the lock washer and everything else. Okay, with our mid pipe just bolted up loosely. We want to keep everything loose until we get it all on the sled, so that way everything can get locked together. We're going to go ahead and install our exhaust pipe. Our exhaust pipe is going to install with 5 M8 by 125 bolts. And that's going to be these 4 flange heads and 1 hex head, okay? So you're going to notice this is a metric bolt that says 8.8. All the other bolts are very similar, but they have American style head. So this bolt is separate. This is going to be the bottom bolt under the curve where you can't get your hand in it. Also going to use these stainless washers on the exhaust side. Okay, so now we have our turbo mount installed, bolted on. Now this is going to be the same whether you have a muffler or a race pipe. Same installation, just the way it looks is going to be different, so we use the same bolts and everything. Notice also we have a hex-sided bolt on the very bottom under the pipe, so you can tighten it up with a wrench and all of these fit. And now nothing's tight, everything's still finger tight, so that way we can go ahead and get our wastegate lined up now. So now we got everything pretty similar to this. And next we're going to take our external wastegate, which if you're not familiar with one of these, you're basically going to leave this plug in it. And this is going to be the side that you use the provided banjo bolt to hook up to your turbo, which is going to get hooked up to right here. So that you're going to use that small vacuum hose that we supply. You hook this up from here to here. And also with the external wastegates, this flange is removable. This has to be installed, otherwise the wastegate doesn't function properly. See, that's the seal for the valve. So basically this gets attached onto the mid pipe and it exhausts out into the exhaust pipe. So we'll go ahead and install this with the clamps we're going to provide. The larger clamp obviously is the bottom, smaller clamp is the top. Alright, with our first flange somewhat tight, we want to just go ahead and wiggle around the two pipes on the loose flanges until we can get our piece to butt up. So see, we gotta wiggle ours around a little, and you want to have both of these flanges perfectly square and tightened up before we tighten any of the other bolts. That way we know we're having a good seal on our wastegate. Alright, so now with our wastegate installed and both ones tightened down, you can see we got perfectly square flanges on both sides, and we can get everything out. So now we can just go ahead, tighten up these bolts on the exhaust side and tighten up the bolts on the intake side from the back here. And it's a lot easier with this out of the sled, so we can go ahead and tighten those up now. And we're tightening the last bolt here under the wastegate. It's real handy to cut down a 6mm wrench, something short like this, and then you can reach right in, get it right in there, tighten it up. And this tool will come in handy for more than just doing this bolt right here. Okay, so with this all tightened, and our flange tight here, on the turbo, our turbo is still loose to get clocked, we can go ahead and grab it up and set it on the sled for the first time and just kind of fit everything in. So once again on our sled here, we have our muffler removed, and that's pretty much it. We're just going to set the turbo in, kind of get everything fitting up, and we'll go from there. Okay, now we go to hang our turbo in the sled. Okay, so now with the turbo sitting in the sled, you can just kind of look and see that everything lines up pretty good. The flanges line up pretty good. This is on a flex joint, so we can make that line up perfect. And we're going to want our turbo to sit up like this. And we'll just kind of notice this part here. The pin goes into the top rubber part, the bottom hole goes into the pin, and all of that stuff kind of fits in like that. And so that's how our turbo is basically going to sit in the sled. And so now the next thing we're going to work on is we are going to work on getting our lines for our turbo hooked up. So we basically are going to hook up our drain hose here with the 5/8 piece of hose we supplied you. It's going to come down, route around, and it's going to get hooked up into that rubber line right there. So we're basically going to take that rubber line off right there. We're going to cut it back slightly, and we're going to install that T into that hose, and then that's going to be our oil drain. So if you haven't yet drained your oil out of your engine yet, this is going to be the time to do that. We don't need to remove the bottom oil hose here. We're just going to take off the drain back for the breather system. So there is oil under there up to the level, so we just need to drain out this case, whether you suck it out or just drain it out the bottom by taking the hose off. Either way, kind of a messy job either way you do it. So we're going to start there. So we'll go ahead and pull our turbo back off and cut our line and install our T. So with the turbo removed, this is the hose we're going to be working with right here. We're going to install this T right here, basically, under there. So to get us a little more room, we got to cut this aluminum back slightly. So we're going to just go ahead and pull it off of here, pull this hose off here, take it out, cut it back, and hook it all back up. Okay, so now this is a feeder drain pipe, and you can see we're going to cut it off on that line right there. We're basically going to install this teeth. We're going to have a little bit of room to put it in. Alright, so now we're going to set up and we cut a short little piece out of our supplied hose, the 5/8 that we give you in the kit. Just cut a little 3-inch piece out of it and use that to attach stacked metal piece cut back to our teeth. We use our stock hose that was there before and cut off a short piece of it, not that much. And then that's going to go back onto the stock fitting of the oil tank. We're going to go back into the stock fitting of the breather hose. And this is now going to go to our drain hose and our turbo. So we'll go ahead and install that. Alright, so now we have our drain set up in. All our hose clamps are tight. And we want to make sure that they're clocked so that nothing's going to get rubbed or worn out when it's going down the trail. So now with all that set up back in, we can go ahead and get set up for our oil line, or our water lines, excuse me, which we are basically going to take one of our oil lines is going to get connected up to this line, or water lines, pardon, excuse me, water lines. Going to be here, and then the other one is going to attach right to here. So it's going to come from out of here to the turbo, out of the turbo, back into this hose.